I'm going to tell you why I think Tesla is not selling cars in India, because a lot of people have been asking and it's not actually as simple as you think, and we're going to talk about it right here, right now, live at E4 Electric, your #1 source of what's happening now in the world of electric cars, and we're going to start right now. Alright, so what's going on in India? Tesla has been trying to get into every market possible. Of course, they're trying to sell cars. They're selling them successfully in China. And the same goes for, other electric car manufacturers. And China has been one of the largest leaders in electric car infrastructure, sales, and even manufacturing. So why is India, who's also a really big country with a big car market, so much behind where Tesla hasn't even gone into it? So if you're watching from India and if you have some information about it that I might have not going to mention today, definitely let me know. If you are new to this channel, welcome. If you're interested in staying up to date with everything that's going on in the world of electric cars, consider subscribing so you can become a part of this community. All right, so I have to say, when I've been doing research on this, because people have been asking me, I have quite a good number of viewers in India about this. This wasn't as easy as I thought, and I have a feeling I'm still missing some information, whether because it's maybe not available on the internet that's widely, or there's something going on that I don't understand. But I'm gonna tell you some basics, right? So first of all, there are a couple of issues. Now, we probably saw this back and forth on Twitter between Elon Musk and, Indian government, which was kind of weird because they were literally negotiating and educating each other right in front of our eyes. So it definitely looks like there's interest, and I understand why. But there are a few things about India, unlike China, that are a little bit different. So there are some basics. Now, China has income that's almost double of average income in India. So that matters, right? Especially if you're selling $100,000 cars. Now, both countries have tariffs on imported cars, but again, income really matters. There's also statistics that there's almost 6 to 7 times more cars are being sold in China. So that is also another number that I'm sure was more attractive to Tesla and other manufacturers. But don't get fooled by those numbers, because Tesla is in Norway and they're doing very well, and that's a tiny country compared to India and China. So don't get too much into those numbers, but at the same time, I think they're a little bit important. Now, I should also mention that India have already made a commitment publicly that they want to ban the sales of electric cars by 2030. There are a lot of countries, including China, who made that commitment, and the time frame ranges from 2030 to 2040, which is not as far as we might feel it is. But they made the commitment, but they haven't really done much about it, unlike China and other countries. First of all, don't forget, there has to be a couple of things in infrastructure and incentives that India is lacking. So first of all, when I'm trying to research about incentives in India, it is kind of tricky to find. As a matter of fact, from what I found, it's $2,000 to $3,000 American dollars if you convert them from rupees, and that may not be enough. And this goes back to the numbers that I mentioned about the income that is much lower in India compared to China. So if you're buying a $100,000 car, $10,000, $15,000 incentive, is definitely helping you out. But if you have $2,000 incentive on cars, then it is not that much. And I believe they're not even taking the entire price. They're taking only the basic price of that car. If you buy any options, they won't have nothing to do with it. So it is, I would even say, confusing and definitely not enough. And don't forget, I did the video about this, about, which country was the most friendly to electric vehicles. And it was really tough to tell because, each country is different. There are different incomes, there's different cultures, there's different needs for what kind of cars people drive, what kind of fuel they want to put into it. So it's really tough to compare. But obviously, Indian government has not done enough in incentives to get people excited and actually putting their money into electric cars. So that's number one. It's very important because something like this has to be driven, or at least helped by a government like it's being done in America and definitely in China and many countries in Europe that are successful with selling electric cars. Now, the second one is electricity and electric infrastructure. The laws in India, from what I understand, almost monopolize where electricity comes from and how it can be distributed. And on top of that, the infrastructure is just simply not enough to support a sort of a, like, let's say, a supercharging network on top of that. There are simply not that many locations, at least not as many, where, let's say, Tesla can come in and have a very powerful supercharger where it will be drawing a lot of electricity from the grid. And on top of that, you know, every house has to have a, you know, a dedicated line almost with electricity if they want to have their own electric charge station at their home. And that infrastructure, once again, in India is just not able to support it everywhere, and that's also a problem, right? So if you don't have public charging stations or superchargers, and you also can't really install one at home, where are you going to charge your electric car? Now, I looked at some data, again, very hard to find, but by the end of 2016, and I don't think it's changed that much, so I didn't find data for the last year, but by the end of 2016, there were about 450 public charging stations in India, while at that time in China, there were 215,000 of electric car public stations. So just to show you what the infrastructure and commitment from those two governments is like in those two countries. So obviously that's a problem. If there's no electricity to be had or the infrastructure to support it, how are you going to do that? It is definitely a problem. And another thing is, don't forget, cars like Tesla rely on good high-speed data coverage for their cell phone companies, and that's spotty as well in India. Now, it's not perfect in China, and not even perfect here in the United States, but this is another thing that needs to be attractive to a company like Tesla to say, yes, you know, we're not going to have all these complaints for customers saying that my car does not have maps and my navigation system doesn't work because they're 5 miles out of the popular area and there is no coverage there. So those things actually matter. That is very important. So incentives, the infrastructure for electricity, the electricity laws, and of course the cell phone coverage. So that's what I found. And this is why it is going to be very difficult for Tesla and maybe not that attractive to enter India. However, I expect that they're probably going to go forward with it at some point because, you know, it is a big market, and you got to kind of, especially if you're first manufacturer to the market, at least on a bigger scale, you're obviously going to get more customers. Now, there's still Tata and a few companies that are selling electric cars in India, but it is obviously not catching on. So if you're watching this from India and you have more information, of course, let me know in the chat room or in the comment section. You can just email me, alex@e4electric.com, and I will create an update. So Christian, talking about the Tesla service in Thailand, let me, I see your comment, but let me maybe answer it in another video right now. I really just want to concentrate on India and really probably should move on. And first remind you that this video and this channel is sponsored by Evanex, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. And if you're interested, there's a discount code that they've created specifically for my community, so you can use it if you are shopping there. Another thing I wanted to tell you guys is as there's obviously a lot of videos coming out from my CES coverage, the Byton video and the Fisker video, my interview with Henrik Fisker, already posted. Next one's going to be Kia, then Workhorse, and a bunch of other videos I'm posting. Now, one of the videos I'm going to post is my interview with Nikki of Transport Evolved. She's another YouTuber that covers electric cars widely, not just Tesla. She covers all electric cars. She has a very interesting perspective. Had a full interview, but for my Patreons, those who contribute to the show, which I thank them greatly, the link is, of course, in the description of this video if you want to become a Patreon. But as always, I offer behind the scenes and exclusive footage. So what I'm going to do for them, and it's posted already, my full interview with Nikki, uncut. I will probably cut it down and post in another week or two on this channel, so you'll get to hear and see that conversation, which I thought was really, really awesome. It was great talking to her, but my Patreons can see it in its entirety right now. Thank you specifically for contributing to the show, and there will be more content coming up very shortly. Hussein in the chat room says, I have a question that I haven't found an answer for when Tesla will launch when Tesla will launch the Model Y if Tesla said that they will use the same platform as the Model 3? So that's an interesting question. I mean, everybody kind of realizes, and I think it's a pretty safe to assume that Model Y would be unveiled sometime this year. But at the same time, you know, we're wondering, and this is what we talked about it on the show yesterday, I think, is what's going to happen, whether or not it's going to happen sooner than we think. Because, you know, Kia Niro EV, which I think was the biggest unveiling at the CES, they're going in production with that, with the 238-mile SUV, literally in about half a year or so, definitely going to be on sale by the end of the year. So people are wondering if it's going to be unveiled, at least the prototype, this year. Now, yes, they have an advantage. Tesla does. Well, I wouldn't say advantage. The advantage over their previous experiences, because it looks like they're going to be basing their Model Y on the Model 3 architecture. So I'm assuming a lot of parts, a lot of robots that they're using are going to be similar, if not the same. But here's a problem. Fremont factory, where all cars are being made right now, are completely full. There's just no way they can produce anything there besides what they're doing right now. So this is a matter of actually creating or building another factory. So that is actually what's going to delay, or at least that's what's taking so much time of Tesla to get Model Y even unveiled and start taking it to production. So I would say that is the factory. So that's what I wanted to kind of mention. Alex from New York, welcome to the channel. I see a lot of familiar places, Bromance, and so many others. Thank you for joining me. Tom from San Diego, Christian from Germany, and of course Tony from Minneapolis. Thanks for joining me in the chat room. Okay, so now we are going to move on to my favorite part of the show, which is comment of the day. And that comment of the day comes from Aaron Bounce. He says, with the old big money from the incumbent automakers, they should easily be able to double or triple or quadruple the size of Tesla networks seemingly overnight, maybe 1 year or something, if they can work out a partnership with Tesla. This brings up a really good point, because, you know, I talk a lot about how Ford and Toyota and some BMW and other manufacturers are really kind of sitting on their hands right now and not doing much as far as electrifying their fleet, even though almost all of them committed to do so. But those companies in particular are not doing definitely much, but for sure enough as far as I'm concerned. But there's, and you will see this in my interview with Nikki, that when we talked about it, and I'm actually gonna put a bit of a video of that. I think I forgot to do it earlier, but in my interview with Nikki, this is what we've been talking about, is and she's most likely right, because these bigger companies can actually afford this. They don't want to be on the front lines of this high-tech, you know, a fight that, you know, Tesla's having with Biden, and everyone's trying to figure out what's up. They have enough sales, enough time to be able to kind of sit on their hands, see what happens, see which technology is going to be the most winning technology, and then throw a bunch of money at the problem. Yes, in some cases you need staff, and there are a lot of talents have already been hired by Tesla, Biden, and many other, and Fisker and many other companies. But at the same time, a lot of these technologies already out there. You can either partner with another company, because a lot of, you know, suppliers, even for batteries, there's tons right now. Fisker partnered with LG, right? So is Nissan. So you really not going into the long. You can throw some money at this problem and come up. Now, something that's supercharger network, that's even easier. There's no, it's not a brain surgery. It's just a matter of renting the locations, running the power to him, and boom, you are right there. Now, they're a little bit disorganized, I have to say. This is something that they should do together, like they're doing in Europe. There are a few auto manufacturers that have created the company called Ionic, and they're building fast charging network, targeting 400 charging network locations in Europe by 2020. So they got to do the same thing around the world, especially the United States, where it's, you know, it's either Tesla network or nothing. So I think it's coming. I think they're just going to move much faster than we think, because of all the money and really talent. I mean, they have talent still already on their payroll. So it is something that I think they can catch up easily. Hopefully not, because I really think you shouldn't be rewarded for doing nothing for a while, but they really have the money and time to do that. Alex in the chat room says, Elon once said during shareholder meetings that it will be built from scratch. He's talking about Model Y, and after corrected himself to say it will be based on 3. He didn't really correct himself, I have to say. They kind of realized that it's going to be a much better platform and much better idea to do that. So I absolutely. So that's pretty much it. The interview that you're seeing right now with Nikki is posted already for my Patreons, which I thank for support for my channel. There will be more behind the scene footage and more exclusive footage there pretty soon. Kia Niro EV, just like I said, one of the biggest unveilings at CES. I'm going to post a video about that shortly in the next couple of days. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for me. I will see you, of course, next time, which is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We'll talk about more exciting topics, electric cars, Tesla, Biden, and so forth. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And remember to stay charged.